Welcome back to Timeless Truths, where we bring ancient scripture to life in ways that speak clearly to today's world. And if this is your first time listening, I'm honored you're here. This is a space where stories from long ago become relevant again, connecting us across generations and into our everyday experiences. Today's episode covers one of the most gripping and sobering accounts in the book of Genesis. It's a story of urgent warnings, moral collapse, divine mercy, and painful choices. But it's not just about what happened. It's about how we're called to live in the middle of a culture that often forgets what integrity looks like. We're digging into a chapter that holds up a mirror to our world. It challenges us to ask, how do we stay rooted in righteousness when the pressure to compromise keeps coming? And when the alarm bell sounds in our spirit, do we respond with action or hesitation? So settle in, this one reaches deep. And here's something to reflect on as you listen. When faced with choices that define legacy, not just survival, are you ready to move forward, or are you still glancing back? Genesis 19, Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, a modern-day reading. 2 angels arrived in the city of Sodom at night, and Lot, who had been sitting near the city gates, immediately recognized their significance. He greeted them with humility and urged them to stay at his home, offering rest and protection. At first, the angels declined, saying they'd spend the night in the public square, but Lot insisted, pressing them strongly until they agreed and came into his house. He prepared an urgent meal of unleavened bread, and they ate together. But before they could sleep, chaos erupted. Men from every part of the city, young and old, surrounded Lot's house and demanded he hand over the visitors so they could abuse them sexually. Lot stepped outside, closed the door behind him, and pleaded with the mob not to commit such evil. In desperation and in a moment reflecting the twisted norms of that culture, he even offers 2 unmarried daughters instead, begging the men to spare his guests, who were under the shelter of his protection. The crowd responded with rage, threatening Lot and preparing to break down the door. The angels stepped in, pulling Lot inside and striking the hostile men with sudden blindness. They couldn't find the entrance again. Then the angels warned Lot with urgency. Do you have any loved ones here? Family, sons-in-law, anyone? Get them out. This city is going to be destroyed. The cries against its corruption have reached God. Lot went to warn his sons-in-law, who were engaged to his daughters, but they thought he was joking. By sunrise, the angels were pressing Lot again. Take your wife and your daughters. You must leave or you'll be caught in what's coming. Still hesitant, Lot and his family were physically pulled to safety. The angels grasped their hands and led them out of the city. Once outside, they were told, run for your lives. Don't stop. Don't look back. Escape to the mountains. Lot pleaded, worried about reaching the mountains alive. He asked to flee to a nearby small town instead. The angels agreed and told him to hurry, saying they couldn't begin the destruction until he arrived. Lot fled to Zoar, and as the sun rose, judgment fell. The skies poured fire and sulfur. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and the entire region were wiped out. Everything living there, even the land itself, was destroyed. Lot's wife disobeyed the warning and looked back. Instantly, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham returned to the place where he had spoken with God. He looked over the region and saw a dense smoke rising like that of a furnace. God had remembered Abraham and spared Lot from the destruction of the cities where he once lived. Afterward, Lot and his daughters left Zoar, afraid to remain there. They settled in the mountains and lived in a cave, feeling isolated and believing there were no men left to continue their family line. Lot's daughters devised a disturbing plan. They got their father drunk, first one night, then the next, and each slept with him without his awareness. Both daughters became pregnant. The older daughter gave birth to a son and named him Moab, ancestor of the Moabites. The younger gave birth to Ben-Ammi, ancestor of the Ammonites. This is my interpretation of the text Genesis 19 lays bear the consequences of unchecked moral decay. and the mercy of God even in the midst of destruction. The people of Sodom had reached a level of depravity so deep that their actions went beyond personal sin. They became aggressive in enforcing that corruption on others. Lot's attempt to shield his guests shows both courage and compromise. He tried to do the right thing, but his offer of his daughters reveals how warped societal norms have become. Even for someone trying to do good, the angels acted not only with supernatural authority but with urgent compassion. They didn't just warn Lot, they physically pulled him out when he hesitated. That moment is powerful. It reminds us that divine mercy doesn't always wait for us to get things right. It reaches in and rescues. Still, it comes with boundaries. Lot's wife looking back wasn't just about turning around physically. It symbolized her heart being tied to a corrupt past, unable to let go. The story doesn't end with fire and judgment. It ends with a complicated glimpse into Lot's family legacy. His daughters, isolated and fearful, made an immoral decision born from desperation and broken logic. It reflects how trauma and crisis can cause generations to repeat dysfunction when hope seems lost. Yet from these children came nations that would later be part of God's larger story. Proof that redemption can rise even from dark beginnings. Ultimately, this chapter isn't just about judgment. It's about what happens when people allow evil to rule, what it costs to protect righteousness, and how grace can still reach people caught in messy, painful, broken situations. Here is a life example for our modern times. Imagine a modern city where corruption isn't just ignored, it's celebrated. Leaders turn a blind eye, and the social culture rewards exploitation. In that environment, those who stand for integrity are mocked or silenced. Someone like Lot could be a whistleblower today, aware that danger is coming, but unsure how to pull others out with him. And just like Lot, he might face resistance even from his own family. There are people in our world who, despite living in toxic or immoral spaces, still try to protect others. Parents raising children amid dysfunction, pastors serving communities steeped in brokenness, or young people standing for truth in schools that ridicule faith. These are today's Lots. Their challenge is navigating that space without losing themselves or giving in to compromise. This is a call to action for all of us. We need to be watchful. Like Lot, many of us are surrounded by influences that seek to normalize what is harmful. This story reminds us not to become passive observers of moral collapse. Instead, we're called to be voices of clarity, compassion, and conviction, even if it puts us at odds with the crowd. Protecting truth requires courage, and courage isn't loud, it's persistent. We must also respond quickly to divine warning. Lot hesitated. The angels didn't. In our personal lives, when we feel convicted about something, whether it's our environment, our relationships, or our choices, we need to act. Don't linger near destruction. Don't romanticize the past that kept you captive. Instead, step forward into the safety that God is offering, even when the next steps feel uncertain. Finally, this is about legacy. Our decisions today shape the next generation's mindset. Let's guide with integrity, and when brokenness is passed down, let healing begin with us. We can't change everything, but we can choose not to repeat it. This story may be thousands of years old, but its lesson is timeless. Flee for what destroys, cling to what preserves, and trust the mercy that leads us out. Today's chapter leaves us with more than just fire and judgment. It leaves us with a warning, a rescue, and a call to live differently. Lot's story reminds us that grace can pull us out, but we still have to choose not to look back. His family's journey shows how hard it is to break free from the pull of what's familiar, even when it's toxic. So ask yourself, where are you lingering that might cost you peace, protection, or purpose? What voices are you listening to when everything around you is urging compromise? This isn't just a story, it's a wake-up call. Let today's lesson guide your steps in the week ahead. Thanks for walking with me through this episode of Timeless Truths. If this message resonated with you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts. Share the story. And come back next time as we continue discovering what ancient truth still has to say in our modern world.